Hello everybody and welcome back to Ruler 101. Today we're going to be looking at a ruler who has a set of mechanics and abilities that make her very, very unique, and as well as her playstyle. I'm talking, of course, about Seer of the Blue Moon. Beauty. Now, she looks very unassuming on her front side. Just a blue ruler, human, J-activate, pay 0. Play this ability only if you put a treasury item into a field this turn. Again, 0 cost J-activating is really nice. So she's got that going for her. And also, continues, you may pay 1 to put cards into your chant-standby area rather than 2. This is where her power comes from and the sheer uniqueness of her kit. Normally, chant-standbys aren't super worth it just because you have to A, pay 2, and B, you have to put them face down on your field and your opponent totally knows that you have them. So, as far as element of surprise goes, unless you're very varied, you can't really catch your opponent by surprise with a chant-standby. Now, there are ways to get around this, i.e. you can play it from your hand if you can pay the cost, but then it's just a chant instant, and why run it in that case? You want it for the free trigger condition, usually. Now, once you J-activate by putting a treasury item into the field, she becomes Kaguya, Princess of the Moon, a J-ruler human that cannot battle. This is unique to but a few rulers. I mean, J-rulers as far as it goes. They don't have an attack or defense, and they just can't participate in battle whatsoever. Now, that doesn't mean they can't be straight destroyed, but it does mean that minus effects don't affect them. For example, a final battle cannot kill her, and damage also cannot be done to her. Now, as for abilities, she has pay 0, change the text of target treasury item you control by replacing all instances of one attribute with another one until end of turn. Now, fun fact, this used to not be treasury item you control. It used to be treasury item in general. However, there were situations where both players would have this and they'd be like, I want that to be that color. No, I want it to be this color. Well, I want it to be this color. And because it's a 0 cost, they could just keep going and going and going until someone decided that they were just going to let it through. Now, she also has activate, pay 2 blue and 1. Search your main deck for a treasury item, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your main deck. Free card advantage, searching for treasury items. Nice. It's very good for a treasury item support list because all of the older treasury items designated an attribute in some manner or another. For example, rest X attribute, cannot be blocked by X attribute, or cannot be targeted by X attribute. So this just allowed her to not only use all of her treasury items to very great effect, but even do some very tricky plays with them. We'll get into those in a little bit. But first, I want to go over the resonators. Now, because she is a blue ruler and you want to be able to pay blue for her ability, you're obviously going to be running a water-based deck. And of course, in every water-based deck goes Cheshire Cat. Now, is it a boy? Is it a girl? It's a very hotly debated topic. Let me know what you think it is down in the comments below. But aside from that, it is an amazing card. 1 blue for a fairy tale, 0, 200, enter, draw 2 cards, then put a card from your hand on top of your deck. So you draw 2, and then you go, oh, I don't want this. And then you know you're going to draw that. But a draw 2 on a 1-drop is amazing. Admittedly, you do have to put the 1 back, but that doesn't matter because you're still net gaining 1 card and basically looking at the top 2 cards of your deck and deciding, hey, I like both of them. Or, I don't like this one, I'm going to put that back and keep the other one. Or even, oh man, I've got this dead card. Cool, draw 2, put 1 back. Yes! And because it's not discard or putting it on the bottom, you don't necessarily have to lose that card because you can just draw it next turn. Or play another resonator that draws you a card, and you're good. All in all, it's a very good card. It's very good just from its enter ability. But its other ability, this card cannot be targeted by spells or abilities. Flat out, you can't target it, your opponent can't target it, it's completely untargetable. So outside of wipe, they can't do anything to it. That makes it an amazing blocker, because you're just like, well, I'll put a Cheshire Cat in his face, and they're like, no. And then it has, when this card is put into a graveyard from a field, shuffle it into its owner's main deck. So you have an awesome blocker that let you look at the top 2 and draw 1, or draw 2 and put 1 back, etc. Can't be targeted by spells or abilities, so it's an amazing blocker. And then when it actually does die, it goes back into your deck for you to draw and use again. This is an amazing card in general. It goes in every deck that I use that uses blue, and in general, it's just amazing. But let's get into that chant-standby area. It's an area that used to be more relevant when they were in rotation. However, there are 2 types of cards that can go in there. Technically, you can put any card you want. Like, you can fake out your opponent by putting down a fake one. So if they're expecting you to have one, they'll be like, oh no, they've got it! And you're like, hehehe, it's a Cheshire Cat. Or you can play one of the actual 2 types. A Resonator with Stealth. Stealth is the same as Trigger. It's the same as being a chant-standby. I forget what the old ability was. It's still Trigger. Odd. I think there's a new one. I don't know. They errated it at some point or changed the name or something. However, let's get into Stealth first, because that's going to make up the main meat of your Resonator base. Starting with, in my opinion, the most useful Stealth Resonator in the game. The Executioner. 1 black for a 300/300 zombie. You'll never play it from your hand. No. It's a bad idea. Because it has stealth, you control a darkness magic stone, and a resonator was put into your opponent's field this turn. So, when that trigger condition is met, you can put this into the field. It used to be you could hijack the chase, and basically be like, the trigger condition's met, haha! But then a certain someone, you know who you are, started asking questions, and they clarified, oh no, you have to have priority in order to do it. And all the chase hijacking shenanigans went out the window. However, thanks to this card, your deck is going to have some very early game survivability because it has an enter effect. When this card enters your field from a chant-standby area, destroy target resonator with total cost 3 or less. So, playing normally, you'd have to pay 2 to put it down, and then you'd flip for a 300/300 kill spell on a 3 or less. Not really good. However, running Seer of the Blue Moon, you just pay 1. Like, you can do it on your first turn. You're like, whatever. And you can put it down, and then whenever your opponent plays a resonator on their turn, whether it's a first turn Sacred Elf, a first turn Tama, a second turn, or even with Energize, a first turn Lancelot, or any of the other 2 drops, or even 3 drops, it flips and murders it. It doesn't matter when, it just goes, ha-ha, you're dead. And that on a resonator is a really undervalued ability. Just to nuke something, but basically for 1 will, is awesome. And also having that body as a blocker or even just an early swing resonator is also pretty cool. Now, there are other resonators with stealth, and the 2 kings of stealth resonators that have definitely the most solid impact as far as stealth resonators go are Riza, First of the Dead, and Melder, Last of the Dead. Let's go over Riza first. 2 black and 2 for an 800/800 zombie resonator. Stealth, you control 4 or more magic stones, you control a darkness magic stone, and no resonators. So you have an empty field, you have 4 stones, and at least one of them is a darkness, you go, haha, free 800/800. Or in this case, haha, 1 cost 800/800. Now, she was good enough to see play in decks that didn't run Seer of the Blue Moon. So you could be like, so she was worth paying 2 for, which is good. She has an enter ability. When this card enters your field, you may pay 1,000 life. If you do, search your main deck for a card and put it into your chant-standby area face down, then shuffle your main deck. So search for anything with trigger, any chant-standbys, any resonators with stealth, anything, and put it into your chant-standby area. It's just 1 card for 1,000 life. Now that seems like a big cost, and it is as far as life goes. It's a 1/4 of your life. That can be really taxing if you're not prepared for it. However, she works really well with the other king, Melder, Last of the Dead. a 1000/1000 zombie resonator for 3 black and 2 that has stealth. You control a darkness magic stone and your life is 2000 or less. So that plays into that, because you play a Riza, you pay 1000, you go down to 2000, or even you play 2 Rizas. Like, so stealth conditions meant you go, okay, I have no resonators, I'll play 1 Riza. Before it actually enters the field, I'll play the other Riza. They both hit, you pay 2000, take 2 melders, put them down, then you flip both melders. And look at that, you've got, what is it, 3200 attack on the board for what basically amounts to free? 4 will in this deck. That's really cool. Even just getting 1 melder is good, because he has an ability. When this card enters your field, target resonator gains -400, -400 for each resonator with stealth you control until end of turn. So, if you have 1 Riza, and that pulls you 1 melder, then you have 2 resonators with stealth. So something gets -800, -800. Now, to be fair, it isn't your opponent controls. So you may end up having to pop a Riza if your opponent doesn't have a bunch of resonators. So, sort of a trade-off. Another thing to note is that both of these are not, their enter effects trigger regardless of whether you use them from a chant-standby zone or not. So late game, you can just hardcast a Riza and activate her effect, or hardcast a Melder and activate his effect. Another good part about Riza is that paying the life is part of the resolution of the effect. So you can put it on the field, and then if they lorite it, or like, what is it, Keys call it, you don't have to pay the life. So you're spared that, at least, if it's getting canceled. But that basically does it for resonators with stealth. Let's get into the other things you put in your chant-standby area. Chant-standby cards. Woohoo! The best of which, in my opinion, is Sign to the Future. Trigger, your opponent controls 3 or more resonators than you. Remove 2 target resonators from the game. So if you have an empty field and your opponent has 3 resonators, 2 of them are gone. Or if you have 1 resonator and your opponent has 4. This is amazing against swarm decks because you can always pinpoint their big things, their buff mechanics, or their big resonate, or their 1 big resonator, and just boom. Now normally it costs 1 white and 1. However, in this deck it costs 1 colorless, because you stick it in your chant-standby and you go, wah wah. It's pretty cool. Now, you can also hold a chant-standby in your hand and play it for its will cost. And you can use that to kind of take your opponent by surprise. And that's just a strategy I wanted to mention, because sometimes you don't want to put it face down if they know what you have. You want to hold it in your hand and then go, ha, gotcha! But besides that, we have the next chant-standby. Death Sentence from the Queen. Normally, 2 black. Trigger, while a resonator your opponent controls is attacking, your opponent banishes a non-attacking resonator he or she controls, you gain life equal to its defense. So they go, I swing with this thing, and you go, haha, banish that thing! They get to choose which resonator they banish, so you could end up just eating a Tama, but if not, if they're running like an aggro deck with Cthulhu's and Lancelots, you're at least going to hit a Cthulhu and gain 500 life, which is really good against aggro decks. And for 1, again, it's a very good card. And because it doesn't target, you don't have to worry about barrier or things like that. Now, the next chant-standby is, that I have lined up, Light of Hope. Normally, 1 white and 1. Trigger, your life is 2000 or lower. Put target attacking resonator on top of its owner's main deck. Resonators cannot attack until end of turn. That pretty much explains itself. Oh, you're attacking? Well, I have low life because I paid it into 2 Rizas. Or played it into a Riza and you're aggro against me. I'm going to put that on top. Also, you can't attack for the rest of the turn. So, swarm decks just cry. And aggro decks cry because they suddenly can't attack. Again, cost 1, really good. Now, the next one I have is also keeps in line with that anti-aggro sort of thing, because with this deck, you want to be able to hold on to every little bit of life that you have. just because you want to be able to pay for the Riza in order to get her and that melder out in that big power swing so you can start swinging yourself. But the next card, Destructive Flow. Normally 2 blue. Trigger. At the end of a turn, you're dealt damage. Return all rested resonators your opponent controls to their owner's hand. So, say they swung in with all their aggro resonators, or they swung in with all their 1/1s, and you took a bunch of ping damage. You go, well, go back to your hand, all of you. Or even they have one resonator that attacked and got through, and some mana dorks that they rested. You go, haha! Yay! It's just another anti-aggro card, which is really nice. However, that's just all of that is really useful on our front side because you can pay 1, you can put it down, you can even put stuff down for like in the future. Like you can, if you draw a melder, you can be like, I'm gonna put that down, just save that because this is turn 1 and I have will, or turn 2 and I have an extra will. I'm gonna save this card. But her J-Ruler side needs some love, so let's get into the treasury items. Starting with the Stone Bowl of Buddha. A 1 blue addition field treasury item, and it has activate rest. Target resonator cannot be blocked by water resonators until end of turn. Now keep in mind that on her J-Ruler side, this can mean any attribute resonators. So say your opponent's running a light deck or a fire deck, or all their resonators are 1 color. You can go, okay, I'm not going to be blocked by wind. And then your melder swings in for 1,000 that they can't block. What I really like about it is that it's not giving it flying, so it's not something that can necessarily be taken away really easily. Now, like a Separation of Fate or something like that takes away something's abilities, admittedly that'll hurt. That'll take it away. But outside of that, this is a really solid way to get damage through. And because it's 1 cost, you can drop it and flip if you really need to, which you probably don't want to do early on. However, water resonators, Cheshire Cats, you can get past their early blockers, sort of. Next up, we have Jeweled Branch of Hourai. 1 white and 1. Activate, pay white, rest up to 2 target fire and or darkness resonators. So you can be like, aha, I will rest up to 2 water and or wind resonators. Or you can just rest the fire and darkness resonators because those are the aggro ones that you go, oh, well, I don't want that attacking me. I'm going to rest it. And your opponent goes, no, my Lancelots. But as far as old style treasure items, up next we've got Heavenly Feathered Robe. 3 blue for an addition resonator treasure item. Continuous. Gain control of added resonator if its total cost is 2 or less. That resonator's attribute becomes water. Stealing a 2-drop isn't super good, but for 3, something that you can like just throw in your deck and then search later on when you need it. It gets rid of a blocker, or it's at the best you can steal a Lancelot with an Ame-no on it. So you can steal their powerhouse after you've rested it with Branch. So you're like, ha ha ha, I've got your fighter! Outside of that, it's not super good, but it's not terrible either. So I usually run it in any sort of treasury item deck. But next up, Jewels on Dragon's Neck. An addition field treasure item, 1 black and 2. Activate. Pay black, rest, put target darkness addition from your graveyard into your hand. Now you've noticed, all of these treasury items are additions. So this, once you can choose the attribute, you can just bring back all of whatever you have, no matter what it is. Take it back to your hand, play it again, take it back to your hand, play it again, which is really, really useful when you combine it with the next treasure item, which is one of the more, well, it is one of the newer ones. Duplication Mirror. 1 blue and 3. Addition treasure item. As this card enters the field, choose a non-Magic Stone, non-J-Ruler entity. This card enters the field as a copy of that entity. So you can copy your opponent's cool stuff, or you can copy their big resonator, or you can copy that addition that's really screwing you over, and that would really screw your opponent over. Or you can be like, aha! Your Misty Dragon is now a really cool addition that can flicker itself. Ha ha ha! And because it's as it enters and chews, it doesn't target, so you don't need to worry about that nonsense. So you can be like, it's gonna be a Cheshire Cat. Why? Because I'm crazy. And when you're copying resonators with it, if you also have jewels on the dragon's neck out, you can just keep bringing this back to your hand and be like, copy that, copy that, copy that, copy that, copy that. Until, of course, there's nothing to copy, and you go, well, I guess I'll get another jewels of the dragon's neck. That wraps it up for the treasury items. There are some other notable ones. For example, what was it? The Kimono of 12 parts. It gives the attack. It's a newer one. It's an addition, and it has bestow, rest, and bestowed resonator gains +100/+100 for each Kimono of 12 parts attached to it, and you can have 12 in your deck. And if you have 12 Kimono of 12 parts on the field and attached to the same resonator, you win the game. I wouldn't go for that strategy, because you're either drawing your entire deck, or you're paying tons of will into this Kaguya search ability. Or you're playing that other Kaguya ruler. But I just figured I'd mention it because it's a really good treasury item. I don't run it in this deck just because I don't really need the power that it gives, and I'm not going to ever be able to get all 12 parts out. If I were running a deck about this, I would probably use that. Yeah, that's probably the deck list I would use. Again, as always, it's just a basic template. It's something that I would personally build, like I'd use that. But there's probably some improvements that I haven't noticed yet. Blue-black as the main color, and then you've got 2 white stones just for late game, white shenanigans with the jeweled branch, etc., etc. Other than that, that's the deck list, that's the ruler. Let me know what you thought down in the comments, or if you have another deck that you use, maybe one that abuses her J-ruler side more than her ruler side. That I think would be pretty cool. Like, get an early flip with Kimono, or with Bowl, and then swing in with all your resonators and be super aggro, something like that. Besides that, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye!